The American Express Trifecta used to be touted as the best setup in the credit card game and what everyone was seemingly working towards to feel like they made it in their credit card journey. But with increased competition from other cheaper and arguably better credit card setups, and honestly the Amex Trifecta just getting a lot worse with all the changes that American Express is making, in this video I'm going to discuss some huge problems with the Amex Trifecta that are going to make you do a double take on whether this setup is actually going to be worth it for you. But make sure that you stay until the end because I'm also going to discuss some specific situations to where the Amex Trifecta could be worth it for you, and if there's a better way to go about it overall. So before I discuss the huge problems with the Amex Trifecta, let me discuss exactly what the Amex Trifecta is and what the main components are. When most people think of the Amex Trifecta, the three components that are most commonly involved are going to be the Amex Blue Business Plus, the Amex Gold, and the Amex Platinum. I'll start with a brief overview of the Amex Blue Business Plus because it's the simplest to understand. So the Amex Blue Business Plus has a $0 annual fee, and it currently has a welcome offer of being able to receive 15,000 American Express points when you spend $3,000 or more in the first 3 months. The key value on the card is pretty straightforward because it's going to be a catch-all card to get 2x back on all purchases. Next up, we have the Amex Gold card, which now has a $325 annual fee. There's been a lot of mixed opinions and feelings on this card recently, especially just due to the exhaustion of all the different credits on the card, and of course the recent changes to increase the fee and add more additional credits. Speaking on those credits, before the changes were made, the two main credits on the card were a $120 Uber credit and a $120 dining credit, but now with the annual fee increasing to $325, there's two additional new credits as well. So that's going to be an $84 Dunkin' credit and then a $100 Resi credit. Technically speaking, if you got the full entire value from all four of those credits, then you get a total value of $424, which is more value than the annual fee. But you really need to take that effective fee with a huge grain of salt because it really just depends on each person's individual situation, on how organically that you're using those credits, in terms of whether you might have actually used those credits before getting the Amex Gold card, whether it offsets a charge that you would have made in your life anyway. And then you also need to consider the potential downsides of booking through apps like Uber Eats or Grubhub to activate two of those different credits, because there are typically upcharges through those apps and then different fees that are tacked on. Beyond the credits, the Amex Gold card is going to be the daily driver in this setup if you do have the Amex Trifecta, and you're going to use this card the most in your daily spending out of the three different components. The reason for this is because the Amex Gold card is going to give you point multipliers of 4x back on restaurants worldwide, 4x back on US groceries, 3x back on flights booked directly with airlines or through the Amex travel portal, and then 1x back on all other purchases. So as you can tell, some of those multipliers are really strong and for common daily spending categories. Finally, the last component of the Amex Trifecta is the card that everybody knows about, which is the Amex Platinum. Also, as a quick note, both the Amex Platinum and the Amex Gold are charge cards, which means they don't count towards your 5-card slot with Amex. The Amex Platinum does have a really high annual fee of $695, which has just continued to increase over the years, but it does have a lot of benefits and different credits that you can utilize. To start with, you will have those tangible credits that can help to reduce your effective fee, which is why some people consider the Amex Platinum to be a little bit of a coupon book. In my opinion, the most valuable credits that the Platinum card has is the $200 hotel credit, the $240 digital entertainment credit, the $200 Uber credit, and then the $200 airline fee credit. Outside of those tangible credits, you will also get the best airport lounge access with access to the Amex Global Lounge Collection. And then finally, you will also get premium statuses, so you'll get Hilton Gold status and Marriott Gold Elite status, which can elevate your experiences with those hotel brands. Now let's get into what I've identified to be the biggest problems with the Amex Trifecta. Huge problem number one is going to be the high annual fee. The Amex Blue Business Plus does have a $0 annual fee, but then the Amex Gold has a $325 annual fee, and the Amex Platinum has a $695 annual fee. So if you add those fees up, that means that the total annual fee on the Amex Trifecta is $1,020. I don't care if you really know what you're doing in the credit card game, you're able to maximize a lot of the different benefits and credits. You have a higher income or whatever the reason is, this is still a really high annual fee to stomach every year. It would be one thing if the Amex Trifecta was by far the most valuable credit card setup, and there was no other setups that really came close in terms of the amount of value and benefits that you got. But it's especially difficult to justify an over $1,000 credit card setup just given our current credit card landscape when there's a bunch of other valuable credit card setups that are out there that are very competitive in a lot of areas in comparison to the Amex Trifecta, yet are much, much cheaper. The second biggest problem with the Amex Trifecta is going to be the lack of simplicity. If we connect this second problem with the first problem, due to the really high annual fee, it's super important to make sure that you're doing everything that you can to get positive value. However, the issue is there aren't easy to use credits like the $300 annual travel credit on the Sapphire Reserve and Venture X, for example. Instead, there are a bunch of different benefits and credits that you have to manage and keep track of, which can make it really easy for certain benefits or credits to get lost in the mist and maybe you just forget about them. Additionally, there are a lot of rules and restrictions with American Express credit cards that you need to know as well, which just adds to the lack of simplicity with this setup. As an example, lifetime language, which basically means that you're getting locked out and restricted from getting certain welcome offers, has been added across a lot of different Amex cards. So that includes the Amex Gold, the Amex Green, and different versions of the Amex Platinum. So it's really important to make sure that you know which credit cards that you are getting and when, so that you're not getting locked out from specific welcome offers. Then there's the dreaded Amex pop-up jail, which no one really knows for sure why it happens or why it affects certain people, but basically it means that you're ineligible when you're actually submitting an application for a welcome offer. So you want to make sure you know what that is because I've fallen victim to this in the past. You also need to know the best redemption options for actually redeeming your American Express membership rewards points, because you pretty much have low rates for everything except for transferring your points out to travel partners. And then you also want to be aware of which version of the American Express Platinum that you're actually getting, because most people are just aware of the vanilla version of the Amex Platinum, but there's also the Charles Schwab Platinum and the Morgan Stanley Platinum that you can get as well. The reason that I say this is because the Charles Schwab Platinum lets you cash out points to your Schwab brokerage at 1.1 cents per point. And then the Morgan Stanley Platinum lets you cash out points to Morgan Stanley brokerages at 1 cent per point, which again gives you a way out of the otherwise really low Amex point redemption options, especially if you just want to cash them out. All right, before I move on, let me introduce you to the sponsor for today's video, which is Kudos. Never use Rakuten or Honey again, and instead meet our new favorite shopping app, which is Kudos. Are you tired of juggling multiple different credit card apps and struggling to keep track of your rewards? Well, Kudos is here to change how you manage your credit cards and keep track of your rewards. Imagine having a financial expert by your side, analyzing your spending habits, maximizing your rewards, monitoring your credit score, and allowing you to pay all your bills all in one app. That's what Kudos does, and it's 100% free. Here are just a few of the many Kudos features that we love. First, maximize your rewards. Earn up to 25% back in rewards when you shop with Kudos on over 15,000 sites. For example, right now, you could 10x your credit card rewards when you use Kudos on StubHub, which is 5 times higher than Rakuten, Honey, Capital One Shopping, and more. Next, breathe through checkout. Left your card in the other room? Well, pick the best card on Kudos and autofill your card details in just one click. And our favorite, never miss a credit card perk. Keep track of your card's hidden perks like a $300 travel credit or a $15 per month Uber Eats credit, because with Kudos, you'll never leave money on the table ever again. And did we mention that it's completely free? Listen, 1 minute of your time could become hundreds of dollars in extra credit card rewards every year. For a limited time only, Kudos is giving our viewers $20 back after their first eligible purchase. Just download Kudos for free and then use the code MATT when you sign up. Trust us, your future self is going to thank you. All right, let's get back into the video. And huge problem number 3 with the Amex Trifecta is that the Amex travel portal option is pretty weak. So once you've earned and have American Express points, redeeming them for cash back is just really not going to be an option unless you have the American Express Platinum, Schwab, or Morgan Stanley versions. So your options then are to try to get over 2 cents per point redemption value when you transfer Amex points out to travel partners, or redeem your points for 1 cent per point through the Amex travel portal. Obviously, from a redemption standpoint, it's always going to be best to try to redeem your points with Amex's travel partners. And even more so, there can be additional downsides when you try to utilize the Amex travel portal. Since technically when you utilize the Amex travel portal, you're redeeming them through a third party, there can definitely be hiccups when it comes to your itinerary. If you do have hiccups, then sometimes you can just be out of luck, because then you have to try to get on the phone with Amex instead of just speaking directly with a particular airline, because again, your travel isn't actually booked through that specific airline. Not only that, but from a redemption standpoint, the Amex travel portal is not very competitive when you compare it to the Chase travel portal options that you'll have with the Chase Trifecta. There's no higher value when you use any Amex cards to book travel through the Amex travel portal, whereas again with the Chase Sapphire Preferred, you get 25% higher value when you book travel through the Chase travel portal. And then with the Sapphire Reserve, you get 50% higher value. And the Amex Travel Portal also doesn't have some of the additional benefits that the Capital One Travel Portal gives you, such as price drop protection, price matching, and overall their partnership with Hopper that allows you to know the best time to book your travel and how to do so at the best price. Huge problem number 4 with the Amex Trifecta is going to be the lack of international acceptance. Essentially, American Express is just accepted, especially internationally, way less than like Visa, for example. So even though cards like the Amex Platinum or the Amex Gold both give you no foreign transaction fees, that doesn't really matter if those cards aren't going to be accepted anyways. This can obviously be dependent on where you like to travel to, because for example, I like to travel a lot to Latin America and American Express is almost never taken. Whereas I would probably anticipate that American Express is going to be accepted a lot more, especially in more touristy areas of Europe, for example. But even international acceptance aside, there's other downsides with using the Amex Trifecta internationally. Logistics with utilizing the different credits and point multipliers can be more difficult. So for instance, on my Amex Gold card, I typically use the dining credit for Grubhub, but in Latin America, they don't use Grubhub at all. They use Rappi instead. Overall, to me, it just seems really counterintuitive because the Amex Trifecta, and especially a card like the Amex Platinum, is supposed to be built for people who travel a lot and utilize all of the travel benefits. It would be a safe assumption to make that people who travel a lot and so therefore want the Amex Trifecta probably travel internationally sometimes as well. So the fact that the Amex Trifecta just doesn't work internationally that well is going to be a major downside. All right, the 5th huge problem with the Amex Trifecta is what I like to call the maximization slippery slope. What I mean by this is because since you're paying an over $1,000 annual fee for this setup, in your head, you feel like you have to maximize every benefit or credit to get value. If you can actually organically do that, well, that's fantastic. But I would make the argument that at least for a benefit or credit here and there, that it's hard not to spend more money than you were organically going to originally, just because you feel like you have to justify this expensive setup. And in reality, this problem is very closely related to the second huge problem with the Amex Trifecta, which is the lack of simplicity. And then the reason that I say that this can all be a slippery slope in terms of feeling like you need to maximize every benefit or credit to justify that really high annual fee is because maybe then you start spending more money than what you were organically, and then maybe you even start feeling like you need to travel more often than you even feasibly can. So again, I would really urge you to make sure that you're actually doing a math equation on every benefit or credit across this setup, and that you'd actually feasibly get enough value to justify it. But even with those huge problems in mind, can the Amex Trifecta, even in current day, still work for some people? Well, I would say yes, and it could especially make sense if you're an avid traveler, so things like elite statuses or airport lounge access are easy for you to get value from without even trying. As an added bonus, if you typically travel a lot solo or travel a lot for work by yourself, then you're in the best position to take advantage of the Centurion Lounge access, because especially with the new Amex restrictions, where you need to pay a pretty significant fee for an authorized user or pay for additional guests that go into the lounge with you, you're obviously best suited to take advantage of it if you're just traveling by yourself. Obviously, even with that in mind, I still think it always comes down to doing your own equation on whether certain credits or benefits on like the Amex Gold or the Amex Platinum are actually going to make sense for you to use organically. Even though the Amex Trifecta can work well for avid travelers who can maximize a lot of the benefits and aren't afraid of the sticker shock of the high annual fee. If you are most concerned with earning points, well, then first of all, the Amex Trifecta is probably not the best setup anyway. I think there could be another much cheaper version of the Amex Trifecta that could be an option for you, and this setup would only have an annual fee of $475. Basically, this would include switching the Amex Platinum for the Amex Green card, which is a much better earning card anyways. Specifically, the Amex Green card would cover very important general categories with 3x multipliers for travel and transit, and then you can offset the annual fee by utilizing the clear credit as well. But to answer the central question of this video, is the Amex Trifecta really worth it anymore? Personally, I think there's enough major problems with the Amex Trifecta and enough competition from cheaper comparable setups that are out there that no, I don't think most people need the Amex Trifecta. With that said, I still think the Amex Trifecta can work for some people. So again, I would urge you to do your own equation on the benefits and credits you'd be receiving and how much organic value that you'd get from them, and if it makes sense, then go for it. But if you enjoyed this video, then I think you'll enjoy this other video where I ranked every single American Express credit card. Thank you all so much for watching this video, and I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Peace.